Hello, hello, hello. It's Friday. Hey, how's everyone doing today? So figure, I haven't done one of these in a while. I tried to do one last month and I ended up just getting busy. So I figure I got the Friday off today. Let's do a nice little QA members only live stream and just kind of have some fun. I'm hoping the Patreon guys can see me. It should be okay. I don't know if the Patreon guys, if you can hear me. So I'm trying something a little bit different this time. So previously, so the way it works is it's kind of crappy that it's set up this way, but the way YouTube works is I could set up streams to be like members only streams or unlisted or whatever. The thing is, if I put it unlisted, that's how you have to stream to get it viewable off-site. So for Patreon, for example, because I have Patreon supporters, I want them on the stream too. I have to put the stream as unlisted and then link it there and they could join it. And the thing is, when you unlist a stream, is it being a little stuttery or is that just me? When you unlist a stream or host an unlisted stream, it disables a bunch of things. It basically it disables a bunch of stuff and it makes it a pain in the butt, especially for like the YouTube members. Like you lose a bunch of features because it's not a full stream. So what I've done, it's a bit laggy. Okay, let me change something here. I'll put. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to change a few settings. 1 second here. Just me. Stutter and not autofocus. I don't have autofocus on this camera. Yeah, I don't have autofocus on this camera. Stutter. It's showing 30 FPS and I'm not dropping frames, so I don't know what's going on there. So anyways, so what I've done, I've done it a bit different this time. There's actually 2 streams. So I set up 2 streams in YouTube, and they're same stream key. So I'm streaming to 2 separate streams. So if you're a YouTube member, you're seeing a members only live stream and I can see all your chat. If you are a Patreon supporter, you're seeing your own stream. So I can see both you guys. That's why chat is kind of broken and I'm not seeing chat on stream right now because it's it doesn't know where to pull from. Yeah. So at least this way, the guys on YouTube get all their features, like monetization works and all that stuff. And then the Patreon guys, you get your support. So I'm glad to see that this is working. I went through and I posted to Patreon and the YouTube members just doing some questions. So I figure, we haven't done a QA in a while. You guys can ask me anything on a live stream. So I got about an hour to kill. I figure go through them. Oh, this print just finished today. So, the flexi articulated dragon that everyone's printing right now. So, this just came off Tallboy with the Rapido. 150% scale and some Nero3d silk, metal silk. And it's 150% scale. This was a 14-hour print. Woo! That was a fun print. Okay, so we have questions. So I'm going to go through. You guys asked a bunch of questions. We're just going to do a QA. I'm going to try and pay attention to chat, obviously. And we're just going to go through and just kind of shoot the shit for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. For those that don't know, I don't gatekeep content, okay? I will time exclusive some things for members. If I finish a video edited early, I'll post it live for members and whatnot. But I hate gatekeeping content. I hate doing that. So if you are viewing this in the future, normally I release stuff that is Patreon or YouTube member. Either, it's an early video and it comes up in a day or 2, or stuff like this, I will put it live usually about a month after it happens. So if you want to see this in the future and you want to watch this live and partake, consider becoming a member or a Patreon supporter. Okay, I think I get more from YouTube. I know it's easier for YouTube. It's easier for YouTube members, but let's get into the questions. So I won't have fancy effects and whatnot because it's all broken. Let's get some music going. So we'll go through the YouTube comments. I had a post up there, and then, yeah. So we'll see. So Duff suggesting that we do a critique of serialized Vorons on Reddit. Oh, so like, okay, so Duff suggesting that I go through and like pull up pictures on the subreddit of people serialized Voron. The thing is, there's thousands, and I don't want to harp on people's builds without their permission. I still have that email of like 100-something photos that people sent me a while back of where I was going to critique their printer, and I still want to do that one day when I get time to sit down and go through all of that and figure out how I'm going to make it into a video or a live stream, whatever, without accidentally, because I'm honestly really worried about doing it live, because I'd have to open each thing individually, and I don't want to accidentally show somebody's personal account and whatnot. That's one of the reasons I haven't done it live. But those are things people have sent me to critique. I don't want to jump onto people's unannounced and critique their builds. So yeah. Biggest self-sourcing pitfalls, not just Rails in general. Any good stories or sourcing gone wrong? For pitfalls for self-sourcing, if you are buying anything off AliExpress, search by number of orders. Don't be searching by search by number of orders, because usually that's the best way. Don't search by reviews, because reviews are all fake on AliExpress anyways. Search by number of orders. Never buy anything from 123 XYZ store number 5, because odds are that's a scam. In terms of like Rails, honestly, unless you buy the absolute dirt cheap Rails that are like way underpriced, like pretty much all my machines are CNA and LDO Rails. High winds are a waste on a 3D printer. And this stutter is really annoying. One second, I'm gonna pause the stream for a second and fix this stutter. This is annoying me. Okay, see if that works. See if that works. Okay, maybe that's... it's still being a... I don't know what's going on with the stutter lately. Maybe it's just on my end. Oh, you know what it is? I got 2 cam links. That's what it is. I got to change to which cam bus the cam link is on. That's why. 1 second. Let me turn you off and see if that helps. See if that helps. Okay. So yeah, that is a massive stutter. Okay, so I think it's okay now. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, so that is that. We shall survive. Hey, hey. I know you don't like wiring, but electrical considerations like wire gauge, grounding, separation of low and high voltage, safety stuff. Maybe at that, checking if your crimps are good. Okay, so when it comes to wiring, my go-to is mains is 16 gauge, hot ends are 20 gauge, and pretty much everything else you're okay with 24. Give your crimps a tug before you put them in. So what that means is, you know, you crimp your wire, you got your fitting crimped on the end, give it a little tug before you put it in the housing if you're unsure. Make sure that doesn't pop off. Separation of high and low voltage, that could be a personal preference. Usually, like, I like to kind of keep them separate, like wall them off, essentially, like try and keep the wiring. If you go back and watch how I wired up my switch wire, you got that high voltage section and then everything else is low voltage. So there is that. Is the stutter gone on your end, guys, or is the stutter still there? I'm very not liking this stutter, and I don't know what's causing it. Is it true that YouTube Premium members provide more ad rev than standard views? Yes. If I look at my revenue on the page, I get an additional revenue from YouTube Premium. So the more people with YouTube Premium that watch my stuff, the more ad revenue I get, because they consider that an additional revenue source. So it's not that I get more ad revenue, it's ad revenue and YouTube Premium revenue is separate. Okay. Pretty good on this end. Okay, so we low frame rate. It's only at 30 FPS. It's showing I'm not dropping any frames, so I don't know what's going on. I think it's just my displays being buggy. I should probably reboot this computer. It's been online for like a couple weeks or months at this point. A Boron Delta that someone made. Timit's Delta. So Timit on the Boron team has been playing around with the Delta since like the Slack days. It's still like just a CAD. I don't know if he'll ever finish it. There will never be a Boron Delta because the thing is, there's nothing we can really do to improve an existing Delta. Like, what can we do to make a Delta a Boron? What can we do that nobody else is doing with a Delta that would give us, that would allow us to do it either cheaper or better than existing? It's like resin printers, home resin printers, right? Yes, you can build a home DIY resin printer, but can you do it any cheaper than current offerings, or can you do it better than current offerings? If the answer to both those is no, then really what's the point of doing it? Okay. Probably because 2 streams. Yeah, it's showing as stuttering on my display, but when I watch the playback, it's not. I don't know, it's weird. Some details on how the Boron parts should look and should fit together, the way of tuning to get the desired results. Okay, so if you go onto the Boron GitHub, no, not documentation. So if you go on the Boron GitHub and go to the 2.2 STLs, test prints. There's a bunch of test prints here. You can ignore the filament, caddy. But there's a whole bunch of prints of things that like should screw together, okay? So these screw together, a bearing fits in here. These screw together, a bearing fits in there. And the same thing here. These screw together. And then you also have the Boron Cube, which, by the way, a bearing is supposed to fit. Do I have a Boron Cube? I think I have them all upstairs. Same thing. Bearings are supposed to fit in there. So if you can print those test prints and they all screw together just fine, and the bearings fit in with a good press fit, like you should be able to have to use some force to push them in, but it shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be sitting there with a hammer thwacking it. It should be just a good, you know, solid push, and they should go together. That's a good way to tell if your fitment and whatnot is correct. Another thing you can do is print like the AB housings and make sure they click together, or like the front eyelets. Basically print 2 parts that are supposed to make together that have like indexing parts. Make sure they fit together. Make sure anything that has like an M3 screw hole, that when you take an M3, it goes through the screw hole without, you know, you having to drill it out or whatever. Like, basically just do some test fits. Print a few pieces, double check things work together. You know, print the fan shroud in the front face of an afterburner. Make sure your fan fits in it. Make sure that this part, you know, freely moves. And if those are good, then usually you're good. It's hard to say because I've had 0 issues with part fitment for like years, so I don't check anything anymore. Pedro, have a few questions. First, I'm curious about the Boron Micron. Not sure if it's classified as a proper Boron. It's a Boron variant. We're still trying to figure out what the proper term is for them, but it falls under, the Micron falls under a, I don't know, I think does it get a V2 serial? I can't remember. I think it's a V2 serial. What are the difference between that and the V01? Would it be possible to more easily support a bigger bed, thinking 200 by 200? And finally, any predictions for 2022 in 3D printing? Okay, so basically the Micron, for those that don't know what the Micron is, and hopefully I'll be building one in the future, it's, you build one of these, a V2.4, with the parts from a V0. So you're using 5015, NEMA 14s, and a 120 by 120 bed, and you're building a V2 with that. So it's slightly bigger than a V0. I think it's about 40 millimeters bigger on the XY and a little bit on the Z. So it is bigger than a V0, but it's, you know, a flying gantry. It's a fun build. It's not a practical build. It's a fun build. So that is that. And can you scale it bigger? Just go right to building a small V2. It'll be less of a headache, in my opinion. Boron Laser. No. Okay, so a Boron Laser falls under the same thing as chamber heaters, okay? There is really no safe way to do it that we can guarantee somebody won't get injured or burn their house down, or in a case of a laser, go blind. So we won't touch that with a 20-foot pole, okay? If you ever see a Boron Laser, it's gonna be completely enclosed with all the reflective, like we'll never put anything out that could be easily goofed and permanently damage you. Like a laser, you can goof with a laser. For example, I've had companies offer to send me a laser to review, like a laser engraver. Unless it's fully enclosed, I won't touch it. Like, I know a lot of them have those little shields that just enclose the laser itself, or they give you glasses. I won't touch it unless it's fully enclosed, just for safety reasons. So lasers are dangerous, so probably not. A complete explanation on belt tension and impact on size issues, maybe. When it comes to belts, I've always kind of gone, just kind of wing it and make sure they're even and make sure they're snug, and then check some prints. And if the prints look okay, your belts are probably okay. People tend to over tighten their belts. Don't over tighten your belts. Like, if, you know, my switch wire belts, I don't know, I could do that with them. Like, they're equal, but they're not over tight. People over tighten their belts, in my opinion. And if you over tighten your belts, that's a lot of time where you see the belt tooth marks in your prints. That's usually from over tightening your belts. Make a reminder for people not to use the Hartke V3.2 tool headboard without nylon spacers. Okay, there you go. There was an issue with an older revision. If you screwed in the screws too tight, it would short out. You can use nylon spacers to fix it, or just make sure you're not using a 3.2 revision. Make sure you're using the newer one. How about a stream of airbrushing resin with the airbrush mounted in place of the hot end with a pump to keep airbrush filled and big UV LED array around the airbrush nozzle? Sort of like a DIY UV resin printer like the MassFit. I like not having cancer, so we're not going to do that. Best doggo treats and slicer tuning. Slicer tuning is use Doc's profile and start from there. And doggo treats, he really likes these pork ones. What's my opinion about the rolling screw extruder? Really big. I don't have any issues with any of my current extruders. So going to something like that, I don't know what I gain. I'm running LGX, mini afterburner, knockoff Bondtech on the FL Sun, regular afterburner, Hamera. I'm using all kinds of extruders, and I'm not really having issues with them, so. I installed a chamber heater on my V0 by using the same bomb silicon heater on an aluminum cooling rim. Pretty safe way. Again, they're DIY printers. You can do whatever you want. It's just officially we don't like chamber heaters because it's too easy to burn your house down. Thoughts about the Mini or the LGX Mini? I did not get one to test. I don't know if they're going to send me one. Bondtech has a habit of just sending me stuff. Like the nozzles, the CHT nozzles, just showed up at my house one day. So I would like a Mini LGX to test. I really like the LGX. I am really liking the LGX. I've got 3 of them running right now. I got one in Switchwire, one in V226, and one in Toasty Boy. And I'm really liking that extruder. There's a stream Friday. Yes, you're watching it right now. And then there will be a stream tomorrow. And for those that are curious, we're doing a resin printer. I got a big resin printer to unbox tomorrow. So there's that. So let's check on the Patreon questions. Would I rather have 100 real boats the size of a benchy or one benchy the size of a real boat? Okay, here's the thing. What would I do if I had 100 real boats the size of a benchy? That's just 100 toy boats. Like, I can't do anything. So yes, I'd rather have a real boat the size of a benchy because I could make YouTube content out of it. Because, hey guys, I made I made a real benchy. And then I could post a picture of my face like this, or shocked, like, and then that would be the thumbnail. And then there'd be videos, and I could milk it into like a whole 8-part series. Yes, I'd take a real life size benchy. Any opinions on orbiters? I have a Galileo, which I ran in Tallboy for a bit, and then I took out because I think I broke the extruder motor. I think something's wrong with the extruder motor, but I had a spare, and I just ended up swapping the afterburner back in. But when it was working just fine. And this is basically, for those that don't know, the Galileo is an orbiter, but it's repackaged. I have an orbiter, an LDO orbiter. I might put in the FL Sun at one point. It works. They work pretty good. They're larger gears than a stock extruder. They're the 8mm Bondtech gears versus the 5mm ID Bondtech gears that the afterburner uses. So more grippage on the filament. But now that we have the LGX with its large gears, that's even more grip. So it's kind of like in the middle. But it's a nice light extruder, and apparently people like them that have been using them. Recommendation for printing sheets for the V0, specifically the EMEA. I'm not sure what EMEA is. I have serious warping issues with ASA. ABS Plus works a bit better now. Never tried different printing temperatures, disable the fan lower. Oh, okay, so if you're like beds, my V0 here is running a LDO flex plate that came with the kit, and that works fine. V00 down there is running an energetic one. That's fine. If you're having issues, if it's possible, EMEA region. I'm assuming that's Europe. Is that what he's talking about? Basically, I'm a huge fan of just buying PEI sheets and sticking them on a bare flex plate. Because if you bork your PEI, yeah, come on. Oh, okay, there we go. Like, just get a blank flex plate and then just stick on a sticker of PEI. Because if you ruin it, you can always just peel it off and stick a new one on. With textured, which that's the issue I'm having right now with Tallboy. I need a new flex plate for Tallboy because I goofed on a print and I printed a little too close and I damaged the PEI sheet that was on the back. And the textured side here, as you can see, is completely covered in glue stick because this textured side does not work. It does not hold. It's like garbage. I don't know what is up with it. It is an energetic, but it's an energetic like style I've never seen. So I don't know if it's like a bad batch or what. But yeah, so that's what I would say is at least get a sheet that has PEI textured on one side and then bare on the other side so you can replace the PEI sticker easily on the back. So that's what I would say. As for good PEI, if you're in the US, Alta Stick makes really good PEI. In Europe, the black PEI that I'm using, I really like this black PEI. It is from, where did I get it from? Fermio Labs. I got it from Fermio Labs. What new things are you most excited for in the hobbyist 3D printing space? Ease of use. I'm really happy that things are starting to get simple. What do I mean by that? Well, you know, Revo. Stuff where you can do nozzle changes now just by unscrewing the nozzle. Like, you don't have to fiddle around with all kinds of funky stuff. You can literally just unscrew your nozzle. And that's it. I could take that out, but I'm not going to. Like, simple, making things as simple and as ease of use as possible. Trying to streamline as much as possible. Trying to take out a lot of the hurdles that make 3D printing a complicated hobby. And for some people it is. Like, yes, most of you here, if you're a Patreon member or support, Molar, yeah, Molar PI. If you're a Patreon supporter or YouTube member or whatever, odds are, you know a bit more about 3D printing other than, oh, hey, didn't they use that in a movie to make something once? So we're the more advanced users. But for a lot of people, especially getting into the hobby, there is still a lot of stuff that is a hurdle if you don't know what you're looking at, right? Trying to explain PID tuning and first layer and how to properly configure a slicer and whatnot and how to adjust things and what you should adjust to change different outcomes on your print. The way Prusa is going with the XL, making tool changing simple, the Revo making hot end simple, newer firmwares that are more advanced, allowing you to do more advanced things to the printer to finally like get in and do things like input shaping. I've seen people complain that, oh, input shaping you don't need it, just build a more rigid printer. If you can figure out how to get around physics, because even with a super rigid printer, you will get an advantage from input shaper. So making things simpler and making things more advanced, if it gets both directions. Things getting simpler, but having the ability to do more. We're finally seeing things that 3D or CNC machines have been doing for decades, finally coming to 3D printing. So. Okay. What do you think about doing a video to summarize your ERCFA experience and maybe share some tips? I will be doing an ERCFA video, a standalone video, maybe this week, if not next week. That I'm gonna hopefully have it out before Christmas. But like I just did another print, little doggo guy. I need to do 1 or 2 more prints to get footage of it running, just for B-roll for the video. And then I will be doing a video on the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder itself. I'll touch on some things about the DFH kit itself, but I won't be going over everything. I'm going to go over just the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder. I'll touch on the Easy Board a little bit, but I'm just going to review it as a Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder itself with a minor on the DFH kit. Okay. So it's going to be a focus on the unit, not the supplier, if that makes sense. Like it is a DFH kit. I will be disclosing that, and I'll cover some of the things that I liked with the kit and what I didn't like, but the review will be on the unit itself and things I like about it, things I don't like about it, and things that you should look out for. I've got to basically start off by saying, if you've never built a printer before and you barely know how to clean out a jam in your extruder, do not build one of these. But now that I've got it, running good, like I've got, half dozen prints so far, no issues. So, can you explain a bit what involves QA for Boron from dev point of view, printing parts and development and feedback, difficulties, issues, etc.? Here's the funny thing. I'm not on the engineering team, so I'm just a dude who tests stuff and make YouTube's videos. But in terms of like printing parts and development, like for example, like one of the reasons people, don't like the fact we don't release beta parts, like stuff that's in development. This right here is a stealth burner front face. Okay. This one is outdated by 3 revisions, and this one is 3 revisions newer than the one in there that I put on a week and a half ago. Okay. So things get tweaked and changed and whatnot because somebody will print something and it's like, oh, in my slicer, this doesn't work. Okay, so now we got to redesign the part because we got to take into account different slicers. There's like different slicers have different funkiness when it comes to like overhangs and whatnot. So there's a lot of tweaking and boxes of parts that just get printed and go into the garbage. So yes, I know some people are unhappy that we don't make stuff more open until it's released, but believe me, it's a lot easier to deal with on the Discord than people bitching that, oh, hey, I just printed it and it's already out of date, because that will happen a lot. Ask anyone on the dev team who's been on the team for a while. We have burnt so much money buying things that by the time they show up, it's out of date. Like I still have LMU 66 or LMU 6 bearings and a whole bunch of 6mm rods from the original V0 design. So yeah. But in terms of like designing parts, there's always there's the Boron design goals, right? All parts are designed to be printed as is in the orientation they come, with no supports, and any part that does have supports, which I don't think we have any yet right now, but any part that does require supports has to be part of the part itself. So you don't have to, if you are printing Boron parts and in your slicer you have enabled support, you're doing it wrong. You should never have to enable support for any Boron part. It's either none required or it's built in. At the current, I don't think any of the Borons have parts that need support. I know the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder does, but that is technically not a Boron. So, any thoughts about commissioning Chaos Cortec to make a channel mascot model? Maybe that's already in the works. Who knows? What's your experience with Stealth Burner so far? Really like it. On ABS, it's not that big of a difference because ABS, I'm already running a low fan. But again, like, all these prints right here, which I turned that camera off, let me turn it back on. Hey, it's you guys. Soon. So like, I don't know. That overhang's pretty good. And that's, just a generic afterburner. This is a generic afterburner. And that came out pretty okay. This is a Those overhangs are pretty good, but this is on a V0. So yeah. Even a stock afterburner, I don't have issues with cooling. I don't run stupid, go slow on your outer walls, guy. Go dummy fast on infill, but for PLA, like I only run like 40 millimeters a second outer walls. Like, slow down on your outer walls and you won't have as many issues cooling. But in terms of afterburner, it's a 50-15 fan. A whole bunch of fluid sim was done on the ductwork. I like it. I haven't put lights in any of them, but it's awesome. So yeah. Yeah, if you want to see some of the old V0 parts, go look at the V00 manual. At the very end of it, there's a whole bunch of parts. And I think some of the pictures are actually from my machine. Or a half-finished machine that I built. What do I think the next big innovation for 3D printing? As I said, making things simpler and lowering the barrier of entry for commercial machines and even custom machines by making components easier, such as the Revo. And also allowing us to do more with the machines with more in-depth firmwares, more advanced firmwares. Clipper is a big leap in that because a lot of people, I remember, like back when the whole Clipper thing blew up with Tom's stream there, because everyone was harping on him about not using Clipper, which if you were one of those people that did that, you are a dummy bag. A lot of people were saying like Clipper isn't proper because it doesn't run on the metal of the controller. Pretty much 3D printers are like weird for that, because if you look at any proper CNC machine, they run like Clipper, where you have a computer runs it, and then there's all these breakout boards that run the motors and whatnot, and they're all separate, and they're all slaved together and connected together with cables and whatnot. You don't run everything on one controller. So the fact that we can now, you know, leverage an entire Raspberry Pi quad core to run a printer opens up a lot more potential down the line, right? Imagine machine learning algorithms and whatnot in the future, right? You tie in spaghetti detector and who knows what you can get down the line now that we have power to do things. But like input shaper is like the first step in that. Why is building Boron so addictive? I don't know yet, but I can't stop. They're fun. Good manual, good community. I wouldn't be part of the community if it wasn't fun. Oh, Steve's here. Hi, Steve. Any thoughts about commissioning? Oh, no, I already read that. It is smart to keep beta stuff out of public, you know? Otherwise, people making kits would be more prone to messing up when fall in the dev team. Oh, God. The kits. So, I have a FISEC kit in the way. I was hoping it would be in this week, but it looks like next week now. They gave me a tracking number, but it actually was somebody else's tracking number. So I was watching a package go to somebody else's house, and when it showed up, I'm like, hey, that isn't me. And they're like, oh, we sent you the wrong number. This is your tracking number. So it should be here next week, hopefully. So that is a FISEC kit. I will not be generous with that kit, okay? I will critique it, but I will critique it like any other kit. If there are things I like, I will say. If there are things I don't like, I'll call them out. But the kits have gotten a lot better, that's for sure. Compared to the original, like a lot of people go back to my video when I did the live stream unboxing I think it was a FormBot kit months ago. A lot of people are like, oh, this video's unfair. My kit was fine. I'm like, when this video was made, we had been repeatedly told that kits at the time, like people were posting in the Discord, hey guys, I just got my kit. Will these extrusions work? And they're V-slot extrusions, okay? Or the motors are like, there's Blue Rolls, I think it was, for a while. Blue Rolls was shipping V0 kits with motors that literally could run at half speed. If you were to run them at like the stock V0 profile, they would skip steps like mad. You literally couldn't go anywhere near the speeds that a V0 can do because the motors were just that garbage. So kits have been improving. The Z end stop and nozzle probe versus probe height was mind-blowing compared to fiddling around with a pin to height. Think of it like a CNC machine. A CNC machine has a tool offset. Every time a CNC machine, like a good CNC, not all CNC machines obviously, but like, you know, industrial commercial CNCs, they have a little tool sensor. So it picks up a new tool and it either goes through a laser or touches off something so it knows where the tool is, it knows the tool length, and it also knows the diameter of the tool. basically we're just doing that with a 10 set micro switch in here. So you know your Z offset, which is really good for things like Revo or any other hot end that you change the nozzle in, where now you don't have to do anything. Like heck, I threw a Rapido in here. I went from a Dragon High Flow to a Rapido. I didn't change any firmware settings. All I did was just, you know, rip out the Dragon High Flow, throw in a Rapido, and it self-adjusted my Z offset. I mean, sure, I probably should adjust my max Z height by like a couple millimeters because I've now lost a couple millimeters, but I don't print to 383 millimeters or whatever my max height is on that machine. So yeah, that's one of those things where implementing things that are common in CNC into 3D printing needs to be more common. It's like Prusa with the XL. Yes, they have that fancy strain gauge in the tool head so that it could do a bed mesh probe. But they have that in every tool head. You don't need that in every tool head. You need that in T0 so that you can level out, get your bed mesh, okay? And then every other tool head doesn't need that. Put a 10 set micro switch that you can ping off of and set your Z offset for each nozzle, and you're done. So you start your print, you heat up all your nozzles to temperature, you mesh your bed, you get your bed mesh, you set your Z offset for T0 because it's got the built-in probe, and then every other tool goes and pings off that switch. And that's your Z offset for that switch, or for that tool, and you're done. There, I just saved you having to put strain gauges in all your tool heads for the cost of a 10 set micro switch and a 5mm dowel. Now, obviously, there's probably a reason why they're not doing that. I don't know. I don't work for Prusa. That's just me theory crafting. I'm sure an engineer could step up and be like, oh, that's actually a dumb way of doing it. But I'm just saying, there are a lot of ways to go about things, and sometimes it's not always the most expensive or the most obvious. But I'm surprised, like this, having the tool offset is not, nobody else has really done it. Like, it's so simple and it's so easy to implement. Yet as far as I know, Vorons are the only printers doing that method. So yeah, they do it for alignment too. Are you talking about like XY alignment? Because I know for Z it wouldn't matter, but for XY, to do XY offsets too. How is it doing the XY offset? Because it's only measuring the Z. How could it know where it is on the XY? Unless it bumps off something. I need Renishaw probes. Yeah, we need just go get a Renishaw probe for every printer. That'll do it. Okay, if it's doing XY, that makes sense. I'm just not sure how it does it. How did the Patrick turn out? Oh. The only goof is this one stupid line right here where it failed to feed the pink filament or the green filament, and I did a tool change manually, and I accidentally changed it to the pink filament. So I have this one line of pink through his belly, but other than that, it came out good. You put a pin in the bed. Oh yeah, so they are just touching it off. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, if they are using it for the XY alignment too, that makes sense. Oh. What else are we looking at here? Oh, and then they're also saying you could use it for jams. I need to talk to Et, who, if you don't know, Et, E-T-T-E, is the guy who designed the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder. The encoder. So for those that don't know, on the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder, there's actually an encoder here that is used for when you do filament changes. It measures the filament. So it tells it to, you know, push this much filament to the tool head. And then it goes, oh, hey, it didn't feed enough filament. There must be a jam or something, and it'll error out, and then you come down and you fix it. And then you can resume. So the encoder is measuring the filament, and the encoder is super simple. All it is a Bondtech gear, and I don't know if it's a Hall effect or an IR sensor, and it just measures off the teeth as it spins, and it just measures it that way. I'm wondering how easy it would be to have one of these broken out standalone, the encoder, and use it as a filament detector on your printer. So not only will it tell if you run out of filament, it'll tell you if filament's actually being fed. So if you get a jam, it'll detect that because it'll go, hey, filament isn't moving anymore. Yeah. I wonder if that would be possible, because the problem with Clipper is Clipper works as a scheduled operating or a scheduled firmware. So it's not like instant interruptions. Stuff has to run before there's like an order of operations to when it runs code. Looking to build a 400 XY 2.4. Do you foresee any issues? Personally, that's pushing the limit. Yes, you can do it. You just might not be able to hit the same speeds as somebody on like a 250 or a 300, for example. I really would not go beyond 400. Do I plan an IDEX build? Similar to what Eddie did. The Trident that I'm getting, the Physec Trident, obviously I'm going to build it stock, but I would like to convert that to an IDEX at some point. That is the future plan for the Trident. So yeah. What else? Oh, and if you guys want to ask any questions, the posts are still up, so if you want to go ahead and ask more questions, you can. What else? What are my plans as a content creator for the next year? Any big projects? That depends on a few things. So in the immediate future, I'll give you the skinny on the immediate future, okay? In terms of stream content, because here's the thing, my video content, I know I've been lacking a bit on standalone videos. Honestly, right now my situation is it's a lot easier for me to do streams and standalone videos. I work a full-time job. And I have a young kid, and me and my wife work separate shifts. So it's easier for me to do streams. I just turn on the camera, we shoot the shit for 3 hours, and I'm done. I don't have to plan out anything. I don't have to edit. So in terms of videos, whatever happens, happens. I still have a scanner I got to make a video on, hopefully this weekend. The ERCFA video, that kind of thing. I know I haven't done a lot of Clipper stuff lately. I'm going to try and get back into that. But those will happen as they happen. Stream content. I have a Trident kit on the way, okay? So I will be building a Trident, okay? It's a Physec Trident. That will probably be 5 to 6, 7, I don't know how many streams. However many streams the Trident build takes. So that will be the Trident streams. I'm pretty sure DFH is sending me a Micron kit, though there will also be a Micron build, okay? That will probably be after Trident. And then also, there'll be random streams in between there. I have, for example, tomorrow stream, I have a Whale 2 resin printer. So we're going to be doing an unboxing and a build, well, unboxing and a setup and a print of a resin printer. So those will be that. What else? What else? There was something else. Oh, and then New Year's. So let me pull up my calendar. So I am getting a V0 kit, okay? I've already built a V0.0. I've already built a V0.1. I'm building another one, okay? Oh shit, here we go again. So on the 27th and the 28th, okay? That is a Monday and a Tuesday. I have that whole week off work, okay? So on the Monday, Tuesday, I'm going to be doing daytime streams. So hopefully like 2 in the afternoon to like 6 p.m. or something like that, or noon to 5. I don't know the exact hour yet. Come in here. Oh my God. I don't know if Duff's here, but here you go. Whiny boy. So, sit. Oh, there's only 2 left. There you go, good boy. So, I will be building it on those 2 days. Hopefully I can get it done in those 2 days. If not, I'll have like a couple days to finalize it, because on the 30th, okay? So it will be Christmas Eve. We will be doing I'm gonna give it away, okay? So on New Year's Eve, on the 30th of December, there will be a live stream. We're just going to hang out. I'll probably just have the printer printing at that point. It'll just print something. But we are going to give away that printer. I will be doing a draw. It'll be open to Canada, US, and Europe. We're going to give away the fully built printer. And during that stream, it will be a fundraiser stream in honor of Sanjay for whatever charity E3D wants to put forward. I know they're working on setting up a fund. Or I don't know if it'll be a charity. I'm still waiting to hear what will be the final thing that they're doing with it. But that's what that stream will be for. So that will be a charity / giveaway stream. Printed Solid is also in. I'm going to try and get a few more vendors to donate stuff. You say hello?
Hi.
Say hi. Hello. The cheese click. It's a camera. Say hello.
Hello. Hello.
Now, what, you want that? You want the vase mode print?
No, wait, what?
The vase mode print? Here, you want half the dragon?
No, guy, okay, guy.
There you go. You can have the dragon.
No, okay, guy.
No, that's the broken dragon. Well, you can't have one of those because I need those. Okay. Here, you want that dragon?
No, I don't.
Or you want the pumpkin? You want the pumpkin?
No.
What do you want?
Okay. Wait, no.
Which one do you want?
No.
Oh, you want the dinosaur? You want that one? Okay. You gotta go upstairs, though.
Green dinosaur.
Yeah, green dinosaur.
He heard Coda bark. He thought he was outside. I was like, no, Coda's downstairs. He's like, Coda's downstairs.
Oh.
Downstairs.
Okay.
Alright, come on, bud.
Everyone out. Not enough room in here. Don't break it, Calvin. Okay. That's not a doggo. Yes, that's a Calvin. Question for the stream. Magnets, how do they work? That's a good question. I wish I knew where that magnet went. Because somebody actually sent something. Because after that whole debacle, there, somebody sent me actual magnet detecting. Where are my magnets at? I need to find one. I know I have some somewhere. But it's like the... where did all my magnets go? I had a whole bunch of little magnets. Magnetic detecting film or whatever it's called. I don't know where they went. I had a whole bunch. I had them stuck on that. Well, I used to have a bunch of magnets. Hey, no. Oh! Gotta close the door. He likes to push his way in. Anyways, magnetic detecting, magnetic field detecting paper. So now we can make sure our magnets actually work. So now we got that. How does it work? I don't know. It's magnets. Nobody knows how magnets work. Magic. Usually stuck under the printer. Yeah. So yeah. So immediate future, we have the Trident, we have a V0 build, we have the Micron. Whatever else happens, happens. Longer term plans for the future. Things are going very well with the channel, I'll admit. There is the potential I go full time. Now, at this point, I'm not sure what that would entail. I like the live streams. So if I do if I do end up going full time doing this, what would probably happen is you would see maybe not so much more videos, but more live streams. I'll probably do more streams per week, but not, build streams all the time. They'd be more like print and chill streams. Hey, I found magnets. So if I end up going full time in the future, that's what it will be. It will be There you go. And you can see the bowls there if they're sideways. So yeah, so in terms of that, the channel's going very well. It's all because of your guys' support with everything. Yes, the channel's still small. I just hit 25,000 subscribers, which I never thought I would ever hit that amount, but we are at that point. And between that, your support, everything's going very well. So hopefully, maybe I won't be in a room and I'll be in an actual location. We'll see. We'll see. That's kind of, it's all up in the air, obviously, at this point. I'm kind of lucky we don't have any major debt or high bills or bills or anything. Like, our mortgage is quite reasonable because we got in before everything went to crap like it is now. So it wouldn't be that hard. But, you know, it's still a huge risk and a jump, and it, you know, not something to take lightly. DC Sublime, $50 full-time fun. Still a while out. Still a while out. But thank you. Appreciate that. Don't forget to like the smash button. Exactly. Have I considered hiring an editor? No, because of I would be a horrible person to edit videos for. I don't have scripts. I don't script anything. My videos are literally, I turn on the camera and I talk for an hour and a half. And then I somehow turn that into a video after. So I would be a horrible person to edit for, because my content would, like, they wouldn't know what I was doing a video on. I would just kind of start rambling and then they'd have to make a video out of it. So I would be a very cruel person to edit for. He's got whiskers now. I'm really liking this silk filament. There's the belly. So yeah. And I've spoken to a few other people in the field, and hiring an editor, you have to, I should not be hiring an editor yet. I'm not near that point. It's very dry in here. I keep coughing. I hear you're building a print NC when you go full time. I would love to build a print NC or some sort of CNC. For those who don't know, I was designing my own CNC for a while there. That kind of got sidetracked as the summer became the summer, and I ran out of time and other projects and whatnot. I actually ordered a bunch of stuff for it. It's just collecting dust on a shelf right now. But if I do go full time, actually, yeah, CNC would be something, because if I go full time, there would be more projects on the channel. I would like to actually start doing proper, instead of just doing content on printers, I would like to use the printers for stuff that is content. So, you know, I've got freaking, I don't even know how many half-finished Iron Man helmets floating around that I would actually like to finish one day. Kind of like Ivan Miranda projects, where he does stuff with his printers, right? You know, or something like that. It would be like a weird hybrid of that, and kind of like, one thing I kind of wanted to eventually model my channel on is Adam Savage's Tested, where it's just him working in his shop, and that's what the videos are, is, hey, I'm doing this, and that's what it is. So if I ever had a shop, that's what it would be. It would be live streams of, oh, hey, we're just kind of building this today, and cameras on, and we're just doing stuff, hanging out, right? So kind of like a weird mash of Adam Savage's Tested, AVE, This Old Tony, with a bunch of 3D printing stuff thrown in for good measure. So it'd be kind of like that. Because obviously, if you want to succeed in a field, look at what other people are doing that you like and copy them. And that's how you end up doing well. Yeah, but the printers print printers. Exactly. And you use the printers to print the printers for the printers. So. Was this ERCFA? No, this is a rainbow filament. This is Sparta 3D rainbow metal silk filament. So this is all on a single nozzle, single extruder printer. This was on Tallboy. 150% scale, 14 hours. So yeah, so if I do go full time, that would be it. It would be a lot more just kind of messing around. So glad to see This Old Tony is back. Exactly, This Old Tony is back. I missed him. What is the status on Toasty printing any special filaments yet? I've printed some 330 degree high temp CF nylon. I'm going to be firing it up again. I haven't been using it in a bit, actually, just because I haven't had to print anything. But for the IDEX, I will be printing some toolhead stuff in that. Or correction, for the Trident, I will be printing some stuff in that. High temp stuff in that for like the toolhead and whatnot, just to use it because I haven't used it in a while. That's the thing. I built it to print high temp filaments, and then it's like, wait a minute, I don't actually need high temp filaments all that often. So yeah, so hopefully in the future. What do I think of those multicolored filaments? I went to go buy some today, and then it was like, if I wanted to buy 3 spools, it was $150 US. So I think it's really cool, and I would like to get some, but that's a lot of money. So if they eventually sell it in Canada, I'll grab some. I think it's really cool. It's like rainbow filament, right? It's like any sort of transition filament. It looks really cool for, you know, certain use cases. You know, transition filaments and multicolor filaments always give an awesome effect. But they're for fun cosmetic prints, which I don't really print as much. I actually print a lot more. Running out of room now for them, but yeah. Remember when my Heart keyboard blew up? Yeah, that was the first, like one of the first revisions, and it was because the traces were automatically laid out by the program, and it's since been changed. So the new ones don't have that issue. I really like this old Tony does videos when he wants. The quality stays good. Yeah, there's a few YouTubers like that just kind of put out videos. Summoning Salt, I think, is finally going full-time YouTube, which I figured he would have by now, considering how many views his videos get. But he's finally going full-time YouTube. But a lot of those people, you could tell it's a hobby because they're not fully monetizing. They might have a Patreon and the YouTube, but they're not like... You could tell they still have a full-time job, which, you know, not everyone wants to, you know, going full-time YouTube is a huge risk because, like, Google doesn't contribute to any retirement fund or has benefits or anything like that. Luckily, I live in Canada, so that isn't that big of an issue. What is my priciest mess up? In terms of... I goofed and now I'm out a lot of money because I screwed something up in terms of, I've killed a few sheets of PEI, including some expensive Ultra-Stick ones. I haven't blown up a controller board since the ramps, luckily. I've wasted money on things that were just a waste of money. But that's, you know, being on the Boron dev team, you end up buying stuff that doesn't get used at that point. I've been kind of lucky in that regard. I haven't really, like, I haven't killed a printer because I have enough spare parts to fix them right away. So. I have a question on Z and subcalibration. Every time I try to set it, I have to move the nozzle down 0.6, 0.1. Is that thickness of the paper? Is the nozzle supposed to be set for true zero? Yes. Okay. Whenever you set your nozzle offset, this is the problem with the paper method. You could use a piece of cardboard to tram out your bed to a printer, okay? And it will work. But the problem is you have to make sure Z0 is Z0, okay? So what I actually do is I'll use a piece of paper or whatever to set my Z offset, but then you take away the thickness of the paper, you know? Grab out your, you know, grab out your vernier caliper and measure the paper, right? Because when you tell your printer Z0 is Z0, it thinks Z0 is Z0. And your slicer, when you tell it first layer height is 0.2 millimeters, it thinks it's at 0.2 millimeters. So if you're off a piece of paper, you know, Let's grab a piece of paper. Let's grab a piece of paper. There we go. Packing statement. There we go. So this is generic paper, okay? So that is 0.12 millimeters, okay? Oop, don't show that. That's got my address on it. So 0.12 millimeters for a thickness of a piece of paper, okay? So that's half a width of your first layer. You're off. So yeah, your Z0 should be Z0, okay? Because it screws everything else up. And then what you do is you set your slicer for whatever your first layer height. I run just 0.2 for all my printers, for most of them at least. Whatever my normal layer height is, that's what I run for my first layer. And then you adjust your squish by flow. That's usually what I do. So if I want to make sure it's really squished down, I increase my flow. If I don't want to squish it down, I lower my flow. But in terms of the mechanics, 0 is 0. Okay, it's the same thing when calibrating your extruder E steps. Okay, if you know you got a Boden setup, take your Boden tube out of the hot end. Okay, when you calibrate your steps, because it should be working off how much the filament pushes, not how much comes through the hot end, and you don't want any resistance. And then what you do is you use your slicer to adjust and fine tune after that. So. The stream should be in 1080p. So there we go. And I think there's no more new questions. Okay, open floor. So what time is it? It's 4 o'clock. Well, we'll go for another like 15 minutes or so. This is just something to hang out. I know, you know, I don't do much for the channel supporters because I hate gatekeeping content. I don't like doing stuff that only certain people can see. But I figure this is kind of a good alternative. I'm going to try and do these at least monthly going forward. I think this is the second or third time I've done this. The second time I tried doing this, there's only like 3 people here because the announcement didn't go out right. So I just made it live for everyone. So yeah, so there still will be a stream tomorrow. So anything you guys want me to talk about or go over in the next couple minutes before we end it? Can I say anything about the V0.2? What is there to say? I don't know. Is it being worked on? I don't know. Is it not being worked on? I don't know. Is it a thing? I don't know. Usually we only push out a full revision update if there's a major change. Like, yeah, there is stuff being worked on for V2.4, but it's still V2.4. Would part-time YouTuber be a thing, like reduce hours at work and reserve 1 to 2 days a week? I work in a trade where that's really not possible. So I already am a part-time YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber for fun. Nero, Trident or 2.4, only one large printer. If you can only have one large printer, personally, I think the V2 scales bigger to larger sizes than the Trident. So if you wanted like a 350, and then also the V2 scales better in the Z. So. I really want a Boron that's Core XY, then not Core XZ. That's Core XY. That's Core XY. That's Core XY. That's Core XY. Well, that one's Core XY. That's Core XZ. We got both. With the new resin printer coming, is Bob Ross going to make a comeback? I have him on the shelf. I never got around to painting him. V01ZX is binding only when it's near the nozzle. Should I loosen the screws where the bed attaches to the lead screw, or is there a better way? Make sure your lead screw is vertical. So if you can possibly measure from the extrusion to the lead screw and make sure it's not wobbling, because what might be happening is at the very top it's out. So you might have an alignment issue. You may have to like loosen a few things up and let them kind of find their home. Or your mount might be a little crooked and it might be out a little bit. So, yeah, you might have something out of alignment. The V1, yeah, no, okay. So Trident replaced the V1.8. So because people get super confused, because technically the V2.4 is actually the oldest Boron right now in terms of current models. The V2.4 is the oldest. We're moving away from names or from numbers. Okay, so the V1.8, the V1.9 is now Trident. Okay, so now they're names. So now it's a Trident instead of V1.9, right? Because it was the V1, V0, that is the model, and then the point whatever is the revision. So it's kind of like a BMW. Okay, it's like a 3 Series, right? There's newer 3 Series, there's older 3 Series, but the 3 Series is different than the 2 Series. And so it's same thing. A V2 isn't an upgrade of a V1. The V2 is just Boron 2, and Boron 1, and Boron 0. But that confused people. So now it's, you know, Trident instead of V1. But the Trident scales better than a V1.8. The V1.8, we limited to 300 millimeters. The Trident can go 350, but I think it's still Z limited to around 300, at least according to our recommendations. You do you. It's a DIY printer though. Even Legacy is newer. Yep, Legacy is, that's one printer that, Legacy is hard to justify. I have people asking should I build a Legacy as my only printer? No, Legacy is a resto mod. I kind of like the looks and the aesthetics of the old style of Boron, like the original Boron V1.0. But I don't want to deal with, like, you know, using a Chimera hotend and I want proper part cooling. So Legacy is kind of like a resto mod, using an old design, but with a bunch of new creature comforts. Do I have pressure advance settings whenever changing Excels? My pressure advance either looks too much or too little, depending on what Excel I calibrate it at. And usually no, I do my PA tune and then I just kind of leave it. Z is due to availability of integrated lead screw separates. 300 millimeter separates sweet spot, which gives a 250 millimeter Z build. That's true. That makes sense. I haven't actually looked into sourcing a V0 or a Trident because I honestly had no plan, because I have no issues with my V1.8 toasty down here. So I had no plans to build a Trident until 5.6 like, hey, you want to build one? I'm like, well, I'm sure, but that kit will be fun. I got so many hot ends now. I'm about to take 2 out of commission too. Collect them all, pretty much. I needed a Legacy at some point. Hoping to build a V2 Trident, but hopefully won't destroy my wallet. Trident is a bit cheaper than a V2. I think it's okay for people who do not need enclosure and have lots of old printed parts lying around like rods. It's still modern form, but yeah. And yeah, it's definitely, there's nothing wrong with the Legacy. Like, it obviously do not build it bigger than spec size. It's on rods, right? Rods flex. That's the problem with rods. You can't support rods midway through. You're kind of stuck with what it is. So yeah, Legacy is a great printer. I know a few people that are using them a lot, but it's hard to enclose and you can't really go big with it. So yeah. Why is Eddie doing IDEX Trident if V2 scales? Fixed gantry is easier to work around instead of making it fly. There's a lot you don't have to worry about when your gantry is fixed in place. Should make a hot end shadow box. I plan on doing that. When I take my beta Revo out of commission, soon as I swap in the production ones, I'm gonna be making a shadow box, and I got, you know, the little Sanjay Memorial print up there, which I did it in the E3D colors, the old one, the green and blue, but you can't see it too well on camera. So I might redo that. So I'm gonna make a little shadow box with the beta Revo and put it up on the wall, which I gotta redo this. Like, the rep box and the switch wire, this isn't going anywhere. So the switch wire is pretty much gonna live here forever. Eventually, for those that don't know, the reason I built the ERCFA in the generic Boron red and black is because this maybe will go on the Trident, unless I make the Trident an IDEX. If I make the Trident an IDEX, it's gonna stay on here. But I didn't know if this would stay forever on the switch wire. That's why I built it in just the generic Boron colors. But whatever tool changer or multi-filament I use, it's going to be here because I got the rep box right here. So I wanted to put a TV here, but that's kind of pointless because this is covering it. V0 will probably always live here. V2 will probably always live here. So I'm thinking of putting something in the window here because this is actually a window that I have blocked off. So I'm thinking of maybe putting a sideways TV there or something. I don't know. So switchwire still worked on. Issues monitor has been released in the wild and forgotten. The switchwire was a very quick development. For those that don't know, this was 2 months. And a month of that, it was a wire drive. That's why it's called switchwire. It was originally capstan drive, using like nylon wire, fishing line essentially. And then that turned out to be an absolute pain in the butt to actually work with. So it was changed to belt. But this was RCF's summer COVID project last year. When everything was all in lockdown, he did that. So in terms of, yeah, there's issues, you know, if there's any major issues, there'll be a revision, but it's a very solid printer. There's really not much to it. So it's kind of like, what would we change on it? It's already got MGN 12. Obviously there'll be an update for Stealth Burner and whatnot and Clockwork 2 in the future. But in terms of the actual mechanics of the printer itself, there's really it's so simple. There's not really much to change. Hate the belt tensioning. I'm not going to disagree with you. Luckily I got it set and then I haven't touched it since whenever I built this. So almost a year. So it's been good for almost a year and I haven't had to retension the belts. So yeah, but I won't disagree. Personally, I would like to see the motors mounted to the gantry itself. So that way, if you wanted to take the gantry off, it would just be 2 bolts, unconnect your wires, and the whole gantry would come off. It would be good for shipping, but yeah. How do you tune for dimensional accuracy? So that's kind of a tricky thing because a lot of people go about it wrong. Basically, it depends on the filament you're working on, but in terms of dimensional accuracy, you need to be able to measure. If you want to actually have proper dimensional accuracy, you need to measure the movement of the printer. Use something like a dial indicator and measure how much your Z moves. So when you tell it to move 20 millimeters, it moves 20 millimeters. Same with your X and your Y motion. Technically, according to spec, you should never have to change your E steps for your X, Y, or Z, okay? Because of the way the math works, you know, a NEMA 17, 1.8 degree with a 22 gear on it with GT2 belt should be X per Y, right? It should be X steps per Y millimeter. And that should be always true because it's mechanical. If something's off, something's defective, okay? So you never should change your X, Y, Z. When it comes to calibrating for size, you're basically going to do everything within your slicer. You're going to adjust your flow settings. You're going to adjust your overlaps. You're going to adjust your hole diameter offsets. And you're going to have to adjust, you know, if you download something off Thingiverse, odds are it was designed by some guy who's printing in PLA only on an Ender 3 or an ANET. Who knows, right? So yeah, your holes, your M3 bolt holes probably won't work if you print it in ABS. Or another plastic or whatever, or on a properly tuned machine. Who knows? Because anytime you see somebody that says you should calibrate your E-steps for your movement after measuring a printed block is wrong right off the bat, okay? You never use the output to adjust something if the output can vary, okay? Because if I print a block out of ABS and I print it out of PLA and I print it out of PETG and I print it out of HIPS, that block is not going to be the same. Different plastics contract at different amounts, okay? Depending on my flow settings in my slicer, that's gonna be different. Am I running pressure advance, right? Is there a bulge or not? Depending on my extruder, is my extruder E-steps calibrated? Extruder E-steps you do have to calibrate because there is a lot of funkiness in there because there's tension and whatnot. So yes, you do need to calibrate extruder E-steps. But measuring a printed block when so many things can affect the size of that printed block, other than just your XYZ motion is straight wrong. Don't do it. So if you're worried about your printer, if it's told to move 20 millimeters and it doesn't move 20 millimeters, get some sort of measuring tool and physically measure your vernier, right? Vernier caliper. This part right here is a depth mic. So if you mount this perfectly perpendicular to your bed, zero it out and move your bed 20 millimeters, this should move and measure 20 millimeters. Same with the Z, right? Or you can get a dial indicator and do it properly. But you know what I mean. F4CJZ, €5. Thank you, appreciate it. So normal to not get perfect quality in the size of the parts in the XY. I still have about 0.07 millimeters differences. 0.07 millimeters. So 0.1 millimeters is 4 thou. So 3 thousandths of an inch. So a human hair is about 70 microns. So what is that, 0.7 millimeters? So I don't work with metric outside of 3D printing. So yeah, 0.7 millimeters. So you're off by a human hair. Honestly, we're splooging out molten plastic out of home-built DIY CNC machines with questionable quality components from China. If you're within the accuracy of a human hair, you're good. What you can do to verify that is print an 80 millimeter cube. And are you still out 0.07 millimeters or are you out 0.14 millimeters? Because if you, every time you scale up that size and it changes, then you may have an issue. But if it's a consistent, you're always X amount under, well then that's a material thing. That's the shrinkage rate of the plastic or whatever. But you got to remember too, the larger the block of plastic, the more it'll shrink. But since we're laying it down and it's not one homogeneous block like injection molding, the shrink rate is going to be different. Also, how much cooling are you running? Are you letting it cool in open air? Are you hitting it with a fan? Because if you measure a print at the bottom of the print, there's less fan than if you measure it at the top of the print. There's so many variables. A human hair, I would not be worried about. If you were out like 0.2 millimeters, 0.3 millimeters, then I would start maybe potentially questioning things. But in my opinion, if you're under 0.1 millimeters for accuracy on something 40 millimeters, I build injection molds that, you know, run production parts for big companies, and, you know, within a couple, you know, 5, 6 thou, good enough. Every single tensioning piece of my switch wire is deformed. What are they printed out of? Is your switch wire enclosed? Like mine's just generic Matter Hackers PLA and I got no deformation. ABS Plus. Huh. You might be over tensioning them, maybe? I don't know, it's hard to say. But I think I'm gonna end the stream here. I'm losing my voice. I'm waiting for this bloody cold to go away. So yeah, so I'm gonna end the stream here. I'll try and do this again in the new year. We'll try and do another one. I'll try and do like near, maybe the end of the month. I'll try and do a short stream just for members. So yeah, so tomorrow night, proper stream, public stream. We're gonna build the, Jesus, a big box. Make sure I don't flash all my personal info this time. Ugh. We got this guy. So we got the Move Dragon, the Nova Whale 2. It's a 9-inch or 8.9-inch LCD 4K mono resin printer. So that will be tomorrow's stream. So the usual 8 p.m. yada yada. So I'm gonna end it there. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. I'd play that Friday song, but unfortunately I'd get DMCA'd pretty quick. So we're just gonna end it there. Take care. Make sure you like the smash button on the way out. I'm not gonna say subscribe because you're already subscribed, but again, thank you guys for supporting the channel. You guys are all awesome. Cheers. Where is my outro? There's my outro. Goodbye.